Hey everyone, hope everyone's having a good day and is ready for another video in the series we like to call Underrated Throwers. Today we got a very special one called and his name is Heinz Weis or Weis. Don't quite know how to say that name because I'm not German, but he is a German hammer thrower, one of the best through the late 80s and 90s, and has a PR of 83 meters and 4 centimeters. He stands at 6'4" tall and 276 pounds. He is a world champion bronze medalist, a European championship bronze medalist, a 4-time Olympian, 3-time Olympic finalist, and just a whole host of other accolades. Perennial in the finals for Olympics and Worlds and Europeans, and just overall very consistent athlete. And the reason why he's underrated is, one, I actually really never heard of him, honestly, to be quite honest. But he consistently got top 6 in 3 of the 4 finals that he was in for the Olympics. Obviously a world champ, and I'm actually shocked I never heard of him. That's not the reason why he's underrated, just because I haven't heard of him. But it's quite astonishing that not a lot of people, I think, talk about him, even though he hits all the criteria for someone who should be a downright legend. And I don't know why. Germany used to have so many. I mean, there used to just be so many 80-plus meter throwers. I don't know if he just kind of got lost in it or whatever, but I mean, he was competing against some absolute studs back in the day. He had to compete against like Belarus. Soviet Union was still a thing, so he had to compete against Sadiq and Litvinov. He had to compete against Hungary. The U.S. used to be good back then too. Yeah, they were just popping out 80-meter throwers like nothing back then. So I don't know if he just got lost in it. I mean, I think there were like 5 or 6 80-meter plus hammer throwers from Germany alone. Obviously he was one of them, but yeah, considering all that, like that era, like the 90s and hammer were pretty good. So, the fact that he's even able to win medals and make finals in that era is pretty astonishing. Had a pretty long prime too. Was able to make, he was competing in the late 80s, still managed to make the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. So that's pretty astonishing as well. That's a long career for pro. And yeah, just overall astonishing athlete, astonishing technician too, obviously, to throw 83 meters. But I think he's just underrated. Because I mean, I've just never heard anybody talk about him at all, which is astonishing to me. Because when I was looking him up and I just saw all these accolades and all these crazy performances that he did, it's astonishing that more people don't talk about this guy because, good Lord, he's so good. And obviously, being German, he has amazing technique, as do all Germans. Haven't met one yet that doesn't. I mean, just look at that. I do apologize for the quality of this video. It is from the 1988 Olympics, where he got 5th place with 78 meters, which is insane by itself. That 5th place is 78.50. That's pretty crazy. Let's watch this one more time. I think this is a pretty good angle to film on. I know I usually hate on the film angles. I obviously think that directly behind the ring is the best angle to film, especially for analysis. Either that or straight onto the side. But this diagonal kind of view is not that bad for hammer. I think I like that angle because it can show you basically all you really need to know about the hammer throw compared to shot and disc. Okay, so, but enough about camera angles and whatnot. And as always, I'll list his height, weight, PR. I didn't even list all his accomplishments but I'll list all that in the video description. All of that. So, yeah, let's get to it. So, these wines, let's go back. Now, obviously, we can only see like not even half of him, so like half of his upper body. So it makes it kind of hard to analyze the winds a little, and obviously the quality of the video, because this isn't from the 80s. Oh, oops. Before we start, I want to give a shout out to this channel. Go give them a follow as well. They make excellent content, and if you just want to see just a whole bunch of hammer throw videos, this is your channel to go to. They have so many videos, some like unique videos that you probably wouldn't see anywhere else. But yeah, they have just a bunch of historical footage of hammer throwers and newer throwers as well. But yeah, give them a shout. Oops, wait, let me clear that. But yeah, so just wanted to shout out them. All right, Throw Hammer, very good channel. All right, now let's get into the analysis. All right, so obviously I like the way he starts facing this way. So if you're facing the back of the ring, he's a right-handed thrower, so he's not shifted. Turned his torso and like his chest and his eyes to point towards the right pillar of the hammer cage. And I like that because it lets him, one, establish a nice, good orbit, and it allows him to push the ball in more. He has more time rather than if he was just completely just facing just straight backwards. Sorry, not backward, like the back of the ring. He wouldn't have nearly amount of time. So you see a lot of really, really good hammer throwers, and they will be facing this way. So then when they go into the ring, they have all this room to push it in rather than just, so if that's the back, rather than just that. It leaves you so much more time and the more time you can push the hammer, the faster and harder you can apply force, which means that it will go faster, which is good. All right, so that's a good tip for you guys. If you guys are having trouble putting in the hammer, try that and see if that helps. And now he's getting really deep. So you see, like, he's not just like winding super lazy and stuff. Like, he is getting after the wind, which I want to preface by saying, if you're like a beginner, don't put more than you can handle in. That's not just for beginners. The wind should be about as hard as you want to put in your first turn. All right. So I think he does what, 2 winds? Yeah, he does 2 winds. Yeah. So some people do 2, some people do 3. I wouldn't do any more than 3 winds just because it's just a waste of energy at that time. 3 is like the maximum. I personally like 2 winds, but if you're maybe not as strong, maybe you need 3 winds to get the hammer going the speed you want it. But I also want you to notice, let me back. Oh, that's the wrong way. Let's see. Of course it doesn't show it. Okay. You can kind of see his hands are like somewhere around here. Obviously a little lower than the screen. But somewhere there. What I see a lot of people do is they tend to wind and their hands are close to their body instead of out here. And you want to wind with your hands out here. All right. Oops. Let me get rid of that. All right. And the reason is because you want the hammer to be as far away from you as possible. So if you bring the hammer close to you with your hands and do winding, 1, it's very uncomfortable and very hard to wind. And then 2, it will make it a lot harder to actually put the it'll push the hammer in for the first turn wide and out like it should be, rather than close to the body. Because if it's close to the body, it will make you tight and you just won't produce an amount of force you need to actually push the hammer through. The hammer, when you do it right, should do a lot of the work for you. You're just kind of just hanging on while the hammer's doing its thing. Obviously, like, you got to push it and like apply force to it, but the hammer's going to go faster than your body can if you do the throw right. All right, so just keep that in mind. The hammer will always move faster than you, all right, if you throw hammer correctly. All right, excuse me for a second. Sorry, I had to cough there for a sec. I do apologize for that. But let's get on to this one. So he's now applying his first wind. So I want you to notice. So he starts here. Look how much he shifts his body back. So he's establishing that good back and forth that he needs. I know it seems like he's going side to side, but remember, he is facing this way. So he's not facing this way. So because he's facing that way, his back and forth is going to be there. He's not going side to side, which is what you want. Which is what you don't want. You want to go back and forth because that establishes a good rhythm for what it's going to feel like when you're countering the hammer. You know, when the hammer is in front of you, you are back. When the hammer is behind you, you are forward. And you can see it in his wind. The hammer is behind him here, so his body is forward. When the hammer is in front of him, look how much he sits back. Right there. And then he does it again. So he does, I think, because of his dramatic change in posture, I think he does the step in. All right, so he's starting like dramatically off to the side here. He lets the hammer go by, and now steps in. Kind of like a Yvonne Tikon would. And yeah, that's honestly a personal preference thing. I kind of like that because if you're pretty good at hammer, it allows you to feel a lot more of a stretch in your if I'm speaking as a right-handed thrower, in your like right side of your core, and just allows you to even like sit back even harder on it, or sorry, sit forward even harder on it because it would be behind you by the time that step actually lands, and it just increases the speed dramatically of that wind, and establishes greater connection and greater force through the wind. But some people don't like it, some people do. It's a personal preference thing, in my opinion. But I'd say if you can handle it, I would try it. But again, it's a personal preference thing. You either like it or you don't. People have had success both ways. All right, so now let's continue. All right, now he's putting it in. I want you to notice his eyes are still facing that way. He's not turning yet with his body. He's going to let the hammer go around him, all right? And he's going to establish good connection. See, look at that. He's still looking this way. And then the camera shifts. But you can still see he's looking the same way. He's going to let the hammer go. Look at this. As he's putting the hammer in, look at how he kind of sits back a little. You see how he starts like here? He starts like here. And then as he goes, you see how much lower he is now? And obviously it's the first turn, so he's not sitting back quite as much as you would like the fourth turn. But the principle still stands. As he's putting it in, he's not just working side to side. He's sitting back while working it side to side. And that's what's going to give you the best results. If you just sit back, it's kind of hard. If you just work side to side, it's really hard to push it in. But if you time them perfectly with the side push and you sitting back, that's what allows you to get the maximum force, especially in the entry, but in all the turns. But it's all about timing with hammer. If you have messed up timing in hammer, you're screwed. Unlike in shot and disc, you can kind of recover it a little. It's not ideal, but you can recover it. If you have messed up timing in hammer, the whole throw is just all out of whack, and you won't throw nearly as far as you would. Again, I do apologize for the quality of the video. Let's see. Okay, so the hammer is somewhere like out here. Okay. Yeah. Oh, oops, that's a little too far. All right, so now, let's see. When does he actually start turning? So he sits back, super nice. Okay, the hammer is here, where like these yellow dots are. That's the hammer. So now it's in front of his belly button a little, which is really good because of the force that he's applying. Beginners, are taught to push the hammer all the way out until to like 90 until the feet can start turning. When you're going speeds to throw, this is a 78-meter throw, to throw as far as this, your feet look like they're turning a lot faster, but it's simply just because you're just putting in the ball harder and the ball is just taking you faster. All right, but the same principles apply. But the better you get, the more that hammer will just kind of just be in line with your belly button, slightly biased towards the right knee, somewhere in there, and will not move side to side nearly that much. It'll be with you the entire time. And that's simply just because of the speed and the forces that are being applied to the hammer. There's if you let it move and then the body move, like a turn, I mean, it just won't go very fast. So the harder you turn the hammer will turn you. So the faster the faster the hammer moves, the faster you will turn. It's not the opposite. The faster you turn, the slower the hammer goes. All right, so you just want to be conscious of that as well. So your sole objective should be to move the hammer. So the end of the hammer, so the ball. Move the ball as fast as you can. And I say as you can. You don't want to move it too fast for your own abilities where you start losing your counter and you start getting out of positions. All right, so you got to go as fast as you can while you hold positions. And then eventually, hopefully, you'll get to a point where you're throwing 83 meters like this guy. But that also takes a special kind of athlete to do that. But, yeah, so I get a lot of questions about, like, oh, but he's turning his feet and the hammer's not going past him. That's the whole spiel I just said. Basically, is because the hammer's moving so fast that he's just turning sooner. But it's not because he's just turning his feet and turning his body. It's because the hammer's just moving so unbelievably fast on that first turn. All right. And it will get faster and faster and faster. You just got to accelerate, just like in shot and disc. All right. So now let's move on. Really, really nice. You see how much he's sitting back? I just leaned a little bit back in my chair. Like it's absurd. Like these elite hammer throw guys, like, oh god, it hurts my knees just watching them. They're crazy. Again, you can't really see that much of what's going on just because of the quality of the video. But as you can see, very good. So let's see where he's actually a little wide on this first turn, in my opinion, just a little. With his catch in terms of his feet. Usually I'd like to see the feet be like here, but he's like here. That's actually pretty interesting. But I mean, when you can be a little wider on your first turn and then get narrower. Let's see. Okay, let me try and find the hammer again. I think. Okay, the hammer is here. So the ball is here. Okay. Oops, wrong way. Yeah, okay. Tracking it. So you saw that first turn was also pretty level. You know, it wasn't like up here or something. It was pretty like shoulder level. That's usually consistent with four turners. Very rarely will you get four turners that will actually have a higher first turn in terms of a high point. You know, people like Koji and Kibwe are the exception. And I guess Katzberg also puts it up pretty high as well. But you'll see most four turners, and I think that's a better thing, is to that first turn is a lot flatter than the second, third, and fourth. Because the first turn is just basically extension of your wind. It's basically just to get the ball rolling. That's the difference between like a four turner and a three turner. A three turner, you gotta just hit it immediately because you don't have that extra turn to get the motor running on the throw. Whereas that the four turner can kind of take its time a little bit and just really, it's a lot easier to do a four turn than a three turn and throw far. Simply just because I compare like the 3-turn hammer to the glide shot put in terms of you just have to be so unbelievably explosive and technically sound to pull off a 3-turner and a glide. Whereas 4-turn, I compare to like the spin, where you can use a lot more momentum to help you rather than glide and the 3-turn. So that's that's basically my spiel on that. But yeah, most 4-turners will go flat, and I say if you want to put the high point a little higher on your first turn, I would say that's kind of dangerous unless you're just actually good at hammer, and I mean good like 60 plus meter good. Otherwise, I kind of wouldn't attempt it because you probably don't have the actual core strength to be able to handle that. Because what will happen is if you put it the first turn up higher for the high point, that means that you will have a more exaggerated orbit, which will make your counter even more insane to make the ball more insane to have to counter. And a lot of people can't do that. That's why very few people do that actually. But that's why you tend to see a lot more elite guys. They'll put it up a little higher because they can actually counter those forces. And if you can counter those forces, theoretically, you should be able to throw further like that. But again, people are throwing 80 plus meters both ways. So it all depends on you. All right. So now we get here. So he's caught. And look at this. So he's here. Now he sits back, pushes the hammer around. All right. Good. Sits back, pushes the hammer. And you notice every single turn, he's getting increasingly more at an angle, like his body. So let's see. His fourth turn. Oh, sorry. Oh my God. His first turn was here. All right. There. Let me make a path. Let me see. Okay. First turn. There. God. Okay. Wrong way. Second turn. More back. Third turn, even more back. You see the pattern here? The more he goes, the more he has to sit back on the hammer. All right. And then the fourth turn, look at that. Look how much he sat back on that. Oh, oops. I guess that was the third turn. Oops. I drew these lines wrong. All right. This is the fourth turn. So this is the release in the fourth turn. Ignore this middle line right here. Ignore that. So you notice you notice the dramatic shifts right there in how far back he's actually sitting. That's what you need. If you stay the same way on your first turn and like sit back the same way on your first turn to your fourth turn, you're one gonna lose your counter, or two, you're just not moving the ball very fast. All right. So the harder and faster the ball moves, the harder and stronger you gotta sit back and counter. And what I mean by sit back is I mean literally like pretending like you're in a chair. All right. And you sit back. So it's not just like leaning your shoulders back. All right. Pretend like you're in a chair from like your chest to your hip flexors. All right. Sit in a chair. Pretend someone pulled the chair out of you and then just kind of lean back on your heels. That's the position you should be in. And then from the chest up, your chin should be slightly back, and your upper body or your arms and shoulders should be as long as they possibly can while reaching out. So you have to fight the urge to be super. You have to fight because you have to be super solid and strong in your hips and like your mid to low core, while your chest and your upper body has to be all loose, all right, and relaxed. And it's a very hard and finite balance you have to find between that. And if you do, you'll succeed in hammer. If you don't, and you're just tense everywhere, you're not going to throw as far as you're capable of throwing in hammer. All right, and yeah, that's just the breaks right there. All right, so again, you can, well, okay, maybe you can't see because of the quality of the video, but just look at how long, and you also, well, maybe you don't notice too because the hammer, it's hard to see the hammer in this kind of video. But it will get longer and longer each turn, like the actual ball will. It will elongate more and more and more and more. One, because the orbit's getting steeper and steeper and steeper the more you turn. And then two, it's because there's just more force into the wire. So that wire is actually extending. All right? Which is why hammer wires break. Because eventually they get to the point where they've been extended so much, they're just weak and then they just snap. But I mean, the wire like actually physically extends. But also, what happens? Sorry, a plane's going over my house. Or a helicopter. I'll wait for that to pass. Come on. All right, I do apologize for that. What was I saying? Oh yes, length. So you just want the hammer to be as long as possible. All right, as long as possible, and your lower body as solid as possible. And obviously, because he's good, he does a fantastic job of that. All right, and yeah, and also, yeah, he gets tighter and tighter with his feet each turn, which is what you want pretty much. And he actually sticks the finish quite well. Now, ideally, he would stay there while he finishes like Koji would, Koji Murafushi. He kind of lets his back foot, or let's see, that would be his left foot, kind of slip under him a little. But that doesn't really matter. He was grounded when he actually... So you'll see this a lot, and I want to make this point. I made this point in other videos. You'll see a lot of people that are really good, and they don't actually stick the finish. One, because when you're throwing these distances, it is just so hard to actually stick the finish. Like, that's actually unbelievable. On like a 70-plus meter throw, to stick the finish is actually an insane feat to do. You have to be so technically sound to do that. That's why you see a lot more people do that in training than in comp. And then the other reason for that is because in comp, you're not really thinking about technique that much. You're thinking about, just throwing far. Obviously, you need to have a base technique, but that's why I always say, if you want to look at someone's technique, look at what they do in training, not what they do in a meet. Because meet throws are never as technically sound as training throws, because in training you're actually working on your technique. In comp you're not. So most people's PR throws are not actually that technically sound compared to their training throws, and that's also sometimes why people will throw further in training than in practice. And also vice versa, but just because you don't have the energy that you do in a meet in practice. So you're supposed to throw further in a meet than in practice, but sometimes you don't. That's one reason why. There are other variables to that. But that's not the video. This is not the video for that. But I can make a video on that as well, but if you want me to. But let's keep on the topic at hand. So releases, very nice. You notice when he releases, super long here. All right, head back a little bit, very nice there. and lets the hammer out somewhere around here. And you notice that his hands go above his head. All right? They don't go to the... Ooh, sorry about that. I don't know why I'm coughing so much. They don't go off to the side, all right? Because he's following his natural orbit. So you should, like, the release just comes based on feel when you get good. But when you're learning, it should be on the side where it should be timed to right when you're about to pick up your right foot to do another turn. So it should feel like another turn you're just stopping, and it should release at your high point pretty much. And yeah, again, there isn't that much to say because a lot of this stuff you can't really actually see very well. Like his head and his feet turning, it's very hard to see that. It's very hard to see where the hammer is actually. But he does a great job. I can't even tell if he lands on the ball of his foot or flat-footed. Due to the quality of the video. And again, I do apologize. Just the best angle I could see because, again, people just don't know how to film throws, and they film like the worst angles possible or like half of their body or whatever, and it's just incredible. But whatever. I'm not going to get on that. But anyway, again, I'll link his personal best, height, weight, and notable accomplishments in the video description. But just an insane technician, insane career. And I hope this has brought some light to him, and you guys have gained a newfound respect for him. And yeah, other than that, thanks for watching. See y'all later. Bye.